Hi everyone, welcome to English Today Journey. And hey, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy learning English in a simple and practical way.
We begin to see the difference between meaningful work and meaningless busyness. Here is something very important. Being productive doesn't always mean doing more work. In many cases, it means doing less, but with more focus, more clarity, and more intention. When you choose tasks wisely and give your full attention to them, you actually create more space in your life. Space to breathe, space to think, space to rest, space to enjoy what you're doing instead of rushing from one thing to another. That's why productive people often look calm instead of stressed. They seem steady and in control, not overwhelmed or panicked. This is not because their lives are easier. It's because they know where they are going. They understand their priorities clearly. They know which tasks matter and which tasks are simply noise. They are not afraid to say no to things that don't support their goals or values. They protect their time and energy instead of giving them away to every demand or distraction. In the simplest terms, being busy means doing a lot of things. Being productive means doing the things that matter. Busyness fills your calendar, but productivity fills your life with purpose and meaning. Once you begin to understand this difference, your habits naturally start to change. You begin to choose tasks more wisely. You start letting go of unnecessary activities. You feel less rushed and more in control. Slowly, you realize that you don't need to be busy to feel successful. You need to be intentional. When you start understanding the difference between being busy and being productive, something powerful begins to change inside you. You stop wasting your energy on tasks that do not matter. You begin to use your time with more purpose. Little by little, your life becomes more focused, more peaceful, and more meaningful. And the most important part is that you experience success in your own way, not according to someone else's expectations. Success becomes something personal, something that feels right to you, not something you are forced to chase. There is one big question that can help guide you toward this new way of living. Am I just moving, or am I actually going somewhere? This simple question can open the door to a completely different lifestyle. It can help you pause, reflect, and choose a life that moves forward instead of a life that simply stays busy. Now, let's be honest with ourselves. If being busy makes us stressed and tired, why do we keep choosing it? Why do so many of us fill our days with endless activity, even when we know it doesn't always help us grow? Surprisingly, the truth is that many people like being busy. Some people even feel proud of it.
But why?
One major reason is culture. In many modern societies, especially in big cities, being busy is often seen as a sign of success. It's like wearing a special badge that says, "Look at me, I'm important." People sometimes call it the busy badge. Think about what happens when someone asks you, "How have you been?" and you answer, "I've been so busy." What message are you really sending? Without saying it directly, you're saying, "My life is full. My time is valuable. I am needed." And because this idea is so common, it becomes part of our identity. This message is everywhere. We see it in movies, on social media, at work, in school, and even in conversations with friends. Society often praises people who are always doing something, always rushing, always working. Slowly, we begin to believe that if we are not busy, then something must be wrong. We fear that we might seem lazy, unambitious, or unimportant. But the truth is very different. Being busy does not mean you're doing well. It only means your schedule is full. And you can have a full schedule and still feel empty inside. I understand this because I've lived through it myself. A few years ago, I was trying to manage too many responsibilities at the same time. I had a full-time job that took most of my energy, but I was also building a side business because I wanted to create new opportunities for myself. On top of that, I was taking evening classes to learn new skills. And if that wasn't enough, I spent my weekends helping to organize a community event. My calendar was completely packed, morning to night, weekday to weekend. I was always rushing, always tired, always thinking about the next task. People around me said things like, "Wow, you're so hardworking," or "You're doing so much." And for a while, I felt proud of that. I wore my busy schedule like a badge that proved I was important. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Even though I was doing a lot, I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel calm or joyful. I was busy, yes, but I wasn't truly moving forward. This experience taught me an important lesson. A busy life can look impressive from the outside, but it can feel empty on the inside if it's not guided by purpose. At that time in my life, every single hour of my day had something written in it. My calendar was packed from morning until late evening. I didn't have time for long lunches. I didn't have time to relax. I didn't even have time for real conversations with my family. When people asked how I was doing, I always said, busy. And I kept telling myself, I'm doing so much. I must be making progress. But deep down, that wasn't true at all. Yes, I was constantly doing things, answering messages, finishing tasks, running from one responsibility to another. I was crossing items off my list every day. But I wasn't truly growing. I wasn't building anything meaningful. I wasn't moving closer to my dreams. I was simply surviving, repeating the same routine day after day, without purpose. My life was full, but I was empty. Then one evening, after another long and exhausting day, something unexpected happened. I finally sat down in a quiet room. There were no notifications, no calls, no emails, just silence. And in that silence, a strange realization hit me. I tried to think back on my day, to remember what I had accomplished, and I couldn't. I had spent so many hours doing things, yet nothing important had moved forward. My hours were filled with noise, emails, phone calls, small requests, little problems, but none of the big goals in my life had changed even a little. At that moment, it became painfully clear. I wasn't choosing my actions. I was simply reacting to everything around me. I was responding to other people's needs, expectations, and requests instead of deciding what truly mattered for my life. I wasn't steering my own ship. I was letting the waves push me wherever they wanted. That realization changed everything. It forced me to finally ask the question we talked about before. Am I just moving, or am I actually going somewhere? For the first time, I understood the true difference between being busy and being productive. Productivity requires direction. Busyness only requires motion. And I had been moving without direction for a long time. But this raises an important question. Why do we keep doing this? If staying busy exhausts us, drains our energy, and steals our focus, why do we continue choosing it? The answer goes deeper than habits or schedules. The truth is that being busy often feels easier than facing the difficult parts of our lives. When we constantly run from one task to another, we don't have to stop and face uncomfortable thoughts. Busyness becomes a distraction, a way to avoid looking at our real feelings. If we slow down, we might have to ask ourselves hard questions such as, am I truly happy? Am I living the life I want? What am I afraid of? What is missing from my life? These questions are uncomfortable. They can bring up fear, sadness, doubt, stress, or even guilt. So instead of sitting still and reflecting, we throw ourselves into activity. We keep moving so we don't have to feel. We keep working so we don't have to think. We fill our days so we don't have to face the deeper truths hiding inside us. In this way, busy schedules become emotional protection. They shield us from uncomfortable realities. But as you know, avoiding the truth doesn't help us grow. It only keeps us stuck. One reason we stay busy is because it feels like protection. Busyness becomes a kind of shield that covers us from emotions we don't want to face. When we keep moving, when we fill every spare moment with activity, we don't have to deal with stress, sadness, fear, or uncertainty. Staying busy keeps us distracted, so we don't slow down long enough to feel uncomfortable truths. But here is the real truth. Genuine growth begins only when we are honest with ourselves. When we stop hiding behind activity and finally look at what is really happening inside us, that is when change becomes possible. There is another emotional reason we love staying busy: the fear of missing out, often called FOMO. In today's world, especially online, we constantly see people traveling, starting businesses, posting achievements, sharing new skills, or talking about their success. It feels like everyone else is moving forward at high speed. This creates pressure. We start believing that we must do more, try more, and become more just to keep up.
So what do?
We say yes to everything. We take on too many responsibilities. We fill our schedule until there is no space left. We stay busy because we're afraid that if we slow down, we will fall behind. But the truth is simple: nobody can do everything. And real success does not come from saying yes to every opportunity that appears. Real success comes from saying yes to the right things, the things that matter to you personally, the things that lead to the life you want to build. There is also another hidden reason we choose to stay busy. Busyness gives us structure. When we feel confused, uncertain, or overwhelmed by a big decision, we often turn to small, easy tasks to feel safe. Doing little things makes us feel like we are being productive, even if those tasks don't take us closer to our goals. It's an illusion of progress. It's motion without meaning. It's like cleaning your desk instead of writing the report you need to finish, or organizing files instead of practicing your English. These small tasks feel satisfying in the moment because they are simple and comfortable, but they do not help us grow. And if we are not careful, these small distractions can slowly take over our entire life. One day becomes 1 week, 1 week becomes 1 month, and before we know it, we realize we are still in the same place we were before, no closer to our dreams, no further along our path. Time has passed, but progress hasn't. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever avoided a big, difficult goal by focusing on small things that didn't matter? Have you ever cleaned your entire room when you should have been studying? Have you ever scrolled on your phone instead of practicing English or working on something meaningful? If you have, don't worry, you are completely human. We all do this. We use small tasks as a way to calm ourselves, to feel safe, or to avoid the fear that comes with important goals. But the crucial part is this: once we recognize this habit, once we understand why we choose busy work, we can change it. We can take back control of our time. We can decide to move toward real growth instead of hiding behind constant activity. When we notice the patterns in our lives, we can start to change them. One reason many of us stay busy is because it feels safe. It feels familiar. And in many societies, being busy is admired. People respect the person who is always working, always rushing, always saying, "I'm busy." It can feel like a badge of honor. But there is a danger in this habit. If we are not careful, busyness can hide deeper issues, our fears, our confusion, or even a lack of clarity about what truly matters in life. The good news is that habits can be changed. And the very first step to change is awareness, recognizing the patterns in our own lives. So today, I invite you to reflect on yourself. Do you wear the busy badge with pride? Do you use busyness to avoid fear, discomfort, or difficult decisions? Do you fill your days with activity that keeps you moving but not growing? These questions might feel uncomfortable, but asking them is the first step toward real change. And as you reflect on these ideas, remember, you're not just improving your English. You're also improving the way you think about your life and your choices. Reflection helps both your mind and your skills grow. Now, let's take a closer look at something very important: the hidden costs of being busy. On the surface, being busy can seem exciting and even rewarding. You always have something to do, someone to talk to, or a task to complete. It gives life a sense of movement and energy. But busyness without direction, without purpose, has a hidden price. Over time, it can become harmful rather than helpful. Let's explore the main costs. The first is burnout. You may have heard this word before. Burnout happens when your body and mind are completely exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. This is not the kind of tiredness that goes away after a good night's sleep. Burnout builds slowly, day by day, over weeks or even months. When it arrives, it feels heavy and overwhelming. You lose energy, motivation, and interest in things you normally enjoy. Even small, simple tasks can feel impossible or exhausting. You may find yourself dreading the day ahead, feeling frustrated with yourself,